right. That was nice. I like that. So, welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today I am here with Andy Schiller, the owner and founder of Drakenstone Dungeon Tiles. Andy, first of all, thank you for setting aside the time to do this. I'm really excited to talk about all these tiles you do. I am lucky I got to see these a couple years ago in person, and they are pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that.
Cool.
Can
Thanks
you
for
tell
having
us a
me.
little bit about yourself, how you got started?
Sure. So, I started playing D&D with the red box, back in 1983, and we always used graph paper and a pencil. But recently, with all the different kind of terrain that's been coming out, I just got frustrated with, it's too tall. I can't see my figures. Someone bumps the table. It goes all wonky. And then I thought, I could probably figure out something way better. And so I came up with this low wall design, low walls, and then it has tiny magnets embedded on the inside, so it just sticks together.
That's cool. I used to use Dungeon what's the name? DM Scotty's cardboard 2.5D method, and the
Yeah.
only thing I ever disliked about it is how easily it slides across the table if you don't use like a shelf liner or something under it.
Okay.
So that probably helps quite a bit. Plus, has a little bit more meat to it, right?
Yeah. So once they're on the table and they snap together, then it all sticks together. So it's not going to move around on you.
That's cool. That's cool. So how long have you been making these tiles?
I've been making tiles since about 2016 or so in different, that's when I started my first Kickstarter, and I tried a few different materials. I tried a whole bunch of different colors.
Oh, okay.
I'm on my fifth Kickstarter now, and I think I really dialed in the right material and the right colors. So this material is rock hard. The magnets are embedded underneath the surface, so you can't see them.
Oh,
And
nice.
it looks just like granite right out of the mold. So I didn't paint that. It's not painted, None of these tiles have paint. That's just how they look straight out of the mold.
That's perfect. You can just set it on your table and play it right away and get that feel.
That's, the other thing that I didn't like about all the terrain that was out there was it was like, all right, we open the door. What do we see? 90-minute break, guys. I got to build the next room. Well, that just really kind of slows everything down. So what I would rather do is you open the door, you're in this room, your turn.
Yep.
So there's no setup.
Right. Yeah, and it's easy, like you said, with the magnets locking in. So do you have magnets in the furniture as well, or is it just the tile portion of it?
It's just in the rooms.
Okay.
So I don't have magnets in the miniatures or like the little accessories, like the benches and beds and doors. And
Right.
this is like a pile of crates right here. So that doesn't have magnets in it. But the actual rooms, they're going to stick
That's
together
cool.
like that.
That's perfect. Yeah, I've been playing D&D since, well, D&D only for about 10 years, but tabletop RPGs since the 90s. And I used to swear I was theater of the mind. And I would say it was about 7 years ago I played with minis. Like I actually gave it a real shot, and I just
Mm-hmm.
fell in love right away. I knew that this was my preferred way to play. It gets rid of like the rules arguments and everything. And there's something about when you have terrain and you put it on the table for players who've never used terrain, and watching their eyes light up like, oh, this is so cool. Like they become a kid at Toys R Us all over again. Start picking it up and looking at it. Like I get a kick out of that every time. So
Yeah.
what's the most complex thing you've ever built?
I'm doing these stackable things now. Okay, and so let me show off this one a little bit. So this is just
Yeah.
a 6x6 room. This has taller walls so that you can stack it and make a tower. And so you just stack them up and it makes a tower. Or if you want to, you can lay them side by side and make a dungeon.
That's cool.
Okay, and they come in different sizes. Like here's the double room. And so that stacks up there. We've got staircases and such to go from one place to another, and you've got your doors. But one of the fun things about it is it gives me the chance to put little details like right in the room. Like that is, I don't know if you can see it, glow in the dark pools, right? So you turn off the lights and you tell your players, you walk into this room, then you turn the lights off and it glows.
Oh,
so it's just really epic that way.
Do you game in that space right there?
Well, not since the pandemic.
I haven't played in person since the pandemic either. But
like I said, with the low walls, how everyone can see from every angle, if you lay this out on a table and you're doing Zoom or Facebook Messenger or however you do it, Skype, everyone can see with the low walls. And so it's great for that online kind of thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've tried I used a flip mount once, and the complaint I got wasn't that like they couldn't see my drawings and stuff. It was they couldn't tell which miniatures were who. And so we didn't do it since it didn't really work out how I had planned. However, I've been talking about using some tokens that I have and just using colors instead of to represent the players, rather than, actual player minis, just because it's hard to tell from up top how I did it. But no, I love it. My wife, it's funny, when I started dabbling with like her start stuff, she's like, this is so cool. And then she's like, you can't build stuff. And then I was like, yeah, I can. And I started doing it. I'm like, it's a lot harder than I thought. So that's why I stepped away. But I love what you do. Like some of those things that you've built, like there's so much detail. Obviously, a lot of that comes from the molds, but like the fact that you put the rooms together and then made the mold, like takes it up to a whole new level.
Right.
How long does it take?
Let me show you this.
Oh.
So this is all one room, so it's there's no glue involved with it. And so you just pour this into the mold. An hour later it comes out, okay, and then I set it on a flat surface for 24 hours so that it can cure. And then you're ready to go. So you can throw this in a backpack, or I'm not worried that it's delicate, or it's not made of that stuff that you get from a 3D printer. It's not PLA or ABS that just kind of feels flimsy. It's got a real solidness to it. And so, I can make this in an hour. So I can make one every hour. So I just crank them out.
Oh, that's not bad. So when, you don't worry about taking these to conventions, dropping them, and then breaking. They're very durable, right?
I've never really broken one. Although I did, for a Kickstarter video, I threw one off my roof and tried to break it so that I could make a video of how durable they were, and it didn't break.
That's awesome, though. That's what you want. Mine is made of like that dental plaster that people talked about on the Hearst Arts forums, and so it chips. And that's like one of the big things that I didn't like about that. So
it's fun and cheap, and then the corners chip, and then you got to touch up the paint, and it leaves dust everywhere. And oh man, painting is I don't like to do painting.
It takes a while, yeah. I'm not a good painter. My wife does our miniature painting.
Yeah, the painting of the minis. You're right. I'm just not good at it, and so it probably wouldn't look good. But I'd say this looks pretty good. I couldn't paint that.
Right.
Don't have the talent. Okay, but you know what? I've got a suggestion for your figures next time. Okay, I'll send you these along with this this dungeon I've got laid out in front of me.
Awesome. I'll review it on the channel. I'll take some pictures and throw it on Instagram.
Okay, so here's the thing that you got to do at your next online game where everybody is not able to tell whose figure is whose. You get these little lights, okay?
Okay.
So these are my LED torches, and I've got these little columns that they slide into, okay? So you can set up, you could put a light, different color light next to every adventurer if you want to. You just push on it, and it lights up. Of course, the battery's dead in this one. Maybe the other one works.
Is it just like a watch battery?
It's a tiny, tiny battery, like the size of a grain of rice or something.
Oh, wow.
Okay, well, both of those batteries are dead right now, but that's what it looks like.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I'll show you what it looks like on the board next to a couple of minis. So these are my light up columns. Here's a mini. I'm going to move my camera down. Camera, vents be lower.
Oh, that's cool.
So here's the mini, and then here's the lights. These are some saw blades that pop up out of the rocks as a trap. They're actually real metal saw blades.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, blade trap, real metal, not plastic, not painted, actual metal. You can't cut your finger on it, but it's totally solid.
That's cool. I love that stairway. That's awesome too. Oh my goodness. So do you do each level of that and then just glue it together, like for your original
This particular one is glued together because it's too hard for me to mold that with the shape that it has, so I glue it together.
That's awesome. Wow. I'm amazed. I have only one shelf of terrain stuff, and it's not organized well, but that stuff like blows anything I have out of the water. Like it's so nice. So when you started making this stuff, did you find that you just loved making it, or like what was it that drew you to making your own tiles? I mean, you said earlier you didn't like a lot of the stuff out of there because it was hard to play around with it. Was that the driving force? Was there more to it? You just realized you had a passion for it?
I just wanted to actually have something to play in the games that I was playing in, right, which were pretty epic at the time. I played some pretty epic D&D games, and I just didn't want to waste any time by setting up terrain for hours. I didn't want to set up something delicate that might break. Just wanted to throw something out fast. So this came out of practicality. All the stuff that I've made here is because it works super well when you play the game.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like, obviously the stuff that's like you said before, the stackable stuff and like big giant towers that WizKids makes for $400 or whatever it is. Like,
those are cool, but how do you get them to game night?
Yeah, and what if you got people on different levels?
Without breaking them.
Yeah, like there's so much to it. Like I have a friend, Brad, who's got like all sorts of stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it looks cool, but like, how do you play in those small spaces with those walls? Like, I've got minis where like they're holding their swords out to the side. You can't fit them in there. You got like a 10-foot wide hallway, but their sword makes them stick out like 3 inches wide almost. Like, it just doesn't work.
Can't really play a D&D game in a 4-inch by 4-inch room.
Right.
And put monsters in there. It's just, you can't play the game that way.
Yeah. No, that's true. That is very true. So you were saying before we went on air, you have a Kickstarter coming up. What's going to be inside of this Kickstarter?
I can't wait to show you this. So my Kickstarter launched Friday, and on Sunday I met my funding goal. So we were funded in 2 days.
Nice.
And so it's called Magnet Maps. Okay, now not everybody has $400 for a stackable building,
right,
or $200 for a set of tiles, or even $100. I mean, what if you got $20? Right. You want to get some totally cool terrain. What do? Okay, well, for $20 you get this Magnet Maps, baby. You get this whole. It's a dice bag.
Okay.
And it has magnetic blocks. All right. And magnetic blocks, they all snap together, obviously, with little magnets that are embedded on the inside. It's kind of like Legos, but cooler. And then you lay them out on the table and you make your map. Goes great with a dry erase board. If you're used to dry erase boards, perfect. Let's face it, dry erase boards are fast and easy, and you can go, here's a tree, here's a door, your turn, right? It works fast. But what if you made the rooms with little actual castle blocks that are raised up off the game board? They all snap together, so it's not going to get all messed up.
Right.
And it's only $20.
Yeah, that's versatile,
you get
too.
Whole stack of maps that come with it. And so these are all the things that you can build.
Oh, that's cool.
So, if you want to build your own castle, great. If you can't think of anything to build, you're like, you got to hand me a picture.
Right.
Okay, you get a whole deck of cards. You get all these cards, and there's 20 maps included with it.
You could randomize it with those too. Just be like, shuffle it up, just run along with it, improvise anything you want too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, just show up to game night, shuffle your deck, throw the first map out, go, okay, here's the first room, everybody. Throw it together with your magnets, build it. Doesn't take long.
We did that at Gen Con 50. A couple of other YouTubers and I were hanging out in one of the halls where they had a bunch of board games, and we sat down at a free table and we just did a quick pickup game. No prep, no nothing. We quickly just made characters and we're playing within about 10 minutes. And something like that would be perfect for that, especially with how versatile those walls are. It's small, like you were showing. That something like that would definitely be a convention must-have, I would say.
It's just you can build whatever adventure you're playing. You can build the rooms, whatever their dimensions are. So you're not stuck with, like when I was holding this up. Hey, this is cool. Okay, but you're stuck with the octagon-shaped room that's 8 inches wide. It can't really be anything else.
Yep.
But with this, you can build anything. So, hey, and if you don't have a dry erase board, it still works. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. A lot of people, I know, feel confined to the square grids, but I don't know. I've tried playing with my groups. Unfortunately, most of my players still look at the grids and get locked into it. Because I put the squares on the terrain stuff that I have. But yeah, a lot of people, do the whole wargaming thing. Just measure out 6 inches or however many inches and travel that far. And that would be a great way to break them out of that too.
Okay, so for all the nerds out there that are geeks and really kind of brainiacs and engineers for a living that also play D&D, check this out. So there's this concept of negative space in between the rooms where, negative space on this map is blue, where there's no rooms. And so in my quest for the perfect terrain, I looked at negative space versus non-negative space. I also looked at Dwarven Forge and their use of half spaces. When you use Dwarven Forge and you build stuff, you end up with along the outer walls of the room, half spaces.
Oh, so it's 2.5 inches or something rather than 2?
Right. So last time I played on a board like that, I was like, can I move into this space? And then it started a half-hour argument and controversy of, well, it's not a full space. And, okay, well, it's on the board. So it's part of the room, but I couldn't move into that space because it wasn't illegal. Anyways, call the rules lawyers. But anyway, so with this
Hey, I'm a rules lawyer. No, I'm just kidding. I am a rules lawyer a little bit.
We all are.
But I'm still all right with it.
So if you want to build something with half spaces with this, you can.
Okay.
Or if you want to build absolutely no half spaces at all, you can. If you want to put the blocks right down the middle of the lines on your grid mat so that there's no negative space on the board, you can do that. If you want to play a classic dungeon with negative space all around every hallway, you can do that. So if you want to build a Hero Quest board, because a Hero Quest board where the walls are doesn't take up any space on the board, right?
Right.
There's no half spaces. It's just a line, right? You can do that with this stuff.
That's cool.
So it doesn't, the borders don't have to be borders like this where they take up negative space on the board. They can be just on the lines. You can set all these up on the lines of the dry erase grid mat, and they'll be in between the squares. And so you're not losing any squares or having any half squares on the board.
Nice. Do you have diagonal pieces in that set too?
Okay, that's a really good question. So when my stretch goals are unlocked, I'm going to do hexagons, octagons, and circles. And so we'll be adding those shapes.
Oh, nice.
Right now, it's just straight L's and
T's and straight lines.
Yeah, and also X.
Gotcha.
So as the stretch goals unlock, there'll be more and more different shapes introduced.
That's cool. Yeah, that's definitely something that's got to get on my list for conventions and stuff. There's no doubt about it. I don't like traveling to DM games. I've made a rule with all my groups that like in-person groups that if I'm running a game, it's got to be at my house because I'm not carrying my stuff. You know, like I'll carry a few books. Basically, if it'll fit in a milk crate, I'll bring it. I used to travel with like miniatures, a box of terrain, you know, books, and not just books for me, books for some of my players. And I've just decided over time I'm not doing that anymore because my stuff gets ruined. I've lost miniatures, I've lost terrain things, but something like that, that's not a problem. Like I could fit that and a couple other things in like a backpack. And I've like over the time I've gotten things like some tactical tokens and you know side quest tokens, all sorts of different things like that. With that, I would have everything I need other than books. So definitely.
So that just all fits in the dice bag. You could throw it in your backpack. You're good to go. These are impossible to damage too, so you don't have to worry about stepping on them or anything.
Yeah, that's cool. So what is that to your left? Is that a castle? Yeah, what is that?
Okay, so this is called Dottie Dungeons, and the guy's from Italy. Okay, and he does these great 3D designs, and so I'm fully licensed by Dottie Dungeons, and so he shared these files with me so that I could print them out and paint them, and I'm going to take pictures and send them back to him. So it's a pretty cool relationship, although he is across the oceans. So it's like you gotta call him at like 9 p.m. or something.
yeah.
But anyways, so this is called the Great Library, and it's in different levels. And so you have kind of the rooftop levels.
Oh, that's cool.
And then inside, it's like Castlevania because it has these big kind of windows and then a balcony.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you've ever played Castlevania, you probably will recognize like the shape of kind of has those bay windows.
Oh,
these don't have magnets or anything, but you don't need them.
Right.
They just kind of stack up.
They're 3D printed, right?
These are 3D printed with ABS.
Okay. Oh, wow.
That's where the staircase goes, obviously.
Yep, the center area. Oh, that's so cool.
And then here's the staircase.
Are you selling that currently on your website?
Yeah, so this set that you see right here is $224.
Okay.
Comes with all the little doors. And actually what I do is before I just print it and send it off to you, I clean up all the edges. Let me show you one I haven't cleaned up so you can see how it comes off the printer. Like this one, I didn't really clean up very much, and it has like, the statues look hairy, right? They have little wisps.
Yep.
And so what you do is you get in there with a toothbrush and you brush them like you're brushing your teeth, and all the little wispy things come right off. Anyway, I clean all that stuff up, and then I put a special, like a gloss coat on it.
Yeah.
And then that way it sort of becomes unbreakable once you put that gloss coat.
Gotcha.
And it feels a lot less brittle, but it doesn't really cover up the detail. And it's kind of primes it and gets it ready for you to paint. So,
is your plan over the next few years to shift more to doing more 3D printed stuff, or do you think you're going to expand on more of the like the Hearst Arts type of stuff?
Here are my plans. So I'm totally launching 3D printed terrain as well as the traditionally molded terrain. I'm also going into sci-fi and doing like your sci-fi towers for Warhammer and stuff like that.
Yep.
And there's a game I can't mention yet that I'm keeping secret because me and a friend are going to be launching a sci-fi game soon, and so can't give you any details about that. Stay tuned. I tell you what, when we launch it, you can interview me again.
There we go. I'm for it. And it's going to be a whole new game that you're making? Is it going to be like a board game?
It's going to be 100% sci-fi.
Nice. And it's going to be its own game, right?
You got it.
Nice.
But I'm still obviously going to continue to make the fantasy stuff that's made out of resin and has magnets, because that's my number one. Everybody loves this stuff with the low walls.
Yes.
So that's kind of my number one thing, and so I'll be doing a lot of that. But also, I'm definitely doing more and more figures. I'll be getting more and more of those. I have like 100 different figures that I'm doing right now, and there's going to be more and more of those coming soon.
Do you license the figures, or like do you pay a sculptor, a modeler?
So this particular figure and all the ones that you might see on the table here are licensed through Ill-Gotten Games.
Okay.
And I'm a licensed dealer for Ill-Gotten Games, and I've been printing all sort of figures and other little tiny things like tables, chairs, benches. The pile of crates is also Ill-Gotten Games. And so I've got this, let me show you this. This is the tavern where the server is bringing beers to everybody that's at the table, and they're all sitting at the table having a brew.
I love that. That is so cool.
So those are all Ill-Gotten Games right there. And so shout out to the guy from Ill-Gotten Games, and he and I have been working together for about the past year, and all of his prints print with no supports. So you don't have to get in there with clippers and clip supports off and then file the nubs down. No supports in the designs.
That's wild. Everyone I talk to is like, oh, you want to make sure you got a lot of supports. That's great. I don't know anything about it. I've started recently talking to my wife about getting a 3D printer. I've got a spot just outside of my game room in our garage that once I do it, I'm going to run ventilation and all that, but I'm probably a good 6 months away from ever like actually purchasing one. And so I have a lot to learn, but that's pretty cool. Cause again, like I said, I heard you need a lot of supports usually for the molds.
So the thing is, let's face it. So if the guy is holding his sword out like this, you're going to need supports all the way along.
Yep.
Okay. But with Ill-Gotten Games and these figures I'm printing, he's just designed the figures in different poses and different stances to fool you. So maybe he's got his sword like this.
Yep.
It's against his body or against his cape. Maybe he holds it against his cape. So it doesn't need a support to print the sword.
Right. Because
maybe he's got it pointed down toward his foot. It's like down on the ground. Okay, well, it doesn't need supports if it's all the way down at the very bottom to begin with. So the pose of the figure doesn't require support.
Oh, that makes sense. Interesting. And what was that? That was Ill-Gotten
Games.
Where are they located out of?
Somewhere in the USA. You can find them on Patreon. The other one I mentioned, Dottie Dungeons, is out of Italy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that one. So when you guys, are all of these going to be found through your website, or when you do more of this 3D printing stuff, is that on a different website?
It's all on my website, Drakenstone.com.
Okay. And with the 3D printing stuff taken off now, like obviously you're still going to do the old stuff. You're still going to do not old stuff. The stuff that got you to where you are. You're obviously going to do more of that. Do you have ideas of doing 3D prints of your current 2.5D walls or your low profile walls? Are you going to release files for those?
I'm not going to do 3D prints of this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And there's a couple reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, with 3D prints, how do you get those magnets in there? I guess you can print them with a hole and then put the magnet in later. Okay, but now you have a hole to cover.
True.
So as far as being magnets embedded inside the piece, show me a 3D printer that's going to do that for you. It doesn't exist.
They don't 3D print magnets yet? No, I'm just
Nope. And then, so the other thing is, I'll admit, as cool as this ABS material is, if I go like this, I can snap it in half like a cracker. Right?
Yep.
So, but you're not going to be able to do that with this piece.
Right. And there's probably less cleanup, wouldn't you think? Or how?
This has zero cleanup. This is right out of the mold. That's what it looks like when you pull it out of the mold. So you're done. Whereas this, oh, you gotta paint it.
That, yeah.
I don't like painting.
I can tell. No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not a big painter either, so I get it. We do mini painting on my channel, but it's always my wife painting, and I'm just in the background talking usually, or working on. We do like random roll tables that I give out to my patrons and stuff. So we always do that kind of stuff. But what has been the biggest dungeon you've ever played? Like
Ooh,
multiple tables, or you know?
That's a good question. Well, the biggest dungeon I ever set up was, there was a video I made where I was sitting at my kitchen table with my, DM screen in the first room, and then the camera pans to where it goes down a ramp, onto the floor, into the living room, out the front door, and then down the sidewalk.
Are you serious?
I had enough of these pieces to actually build that at one time. So that was kind of an epic video, but that wasn't something we actually played in. That was just to look cool.
Right. I've done some pretty big setups just to take photos before, and that was about it. But yeah, I see like some of the stuff that people will do, like at conventions, you'll sometimes see it's covered with a blanket and they'll pull it up and it's taken over like multiple long tables and stuff like that. What was I going to say? The tower, you have like a stackable tower on your website that I've noticed. With that, there wasn't a lot of stackable stuff on your website that I was looking at. Do you have a plan to do more of that with your Hearst Art stuff?
I do plan on continuing that line of the stackable stuff. Here's the thing though about the stackable items. Like say, for example, the stackable room that I showed you before.
Yeah.
Doesn't come out of the mold like this. Actually, the floor and the walls are different pieces. And so there's a glue joint.
Gotcha.
This got glued together around the four edges. Okay, so that means I had to build that, which takes a little bit of extra time. And so when you order these, it always takes me a week or two to complete your order.
Right.
And so, yes, I will be making more stackable stuff. Only thing is, it takes longer to build, and so it's more expensive. It doesn't sell as well as a result.
Right. It's a more high-end client, basically, is what it comes down to. More disposable income.
You got it.
Because everybody wants it. There's no question about that. They just don't always want to pay $300-$400 or whatever it is for the big stuff.
You got it. Now, D&D really is let's face it, it's a 2D game. It's meant to be flat. In fact, to go to a convention and say, I'm 10 squares away from the dragon, which is 10 squares up, and I shoot a fireball. Okay, well, how many squares is that? Now you just started call the rules lawyers again, right? Because it's a hypotenuse. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Remember? Okay, it's not.
Fireballs everywhere, man. You're just dead at that point if you're fighting a big old dragon.
Okay, so it's a 2D game. So, when you build a stackable tower, it's fun, but it's just one level at a time, right? And so why not? I mean, you could just get 10 of those.
Could.
But then you can't stack it. It doesn't look as cool.
Yeah.
So stackable stuff, like you were saying, it does sell and it looks great. But it's just prohibitively expensive.
Yeah. Now, do you have cavern sets? I don't see any of that on the table at the moment.
Right now, I don't have any caverns.
Okay.
But I have hand built some cavern stuff before. And what I do is I use that pink styrofoam stuff that you get at Home Depot, and I take a hot knife, like a melting, like a hot wire cutter.
Yep.
And I cut the walls with it. And then it looks more like natural, like water has flowed through there. Kind of looks like the Grand Canyon. So it gives it that underground look.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've talked about doing too. I haven't tried that yet. I'll probably not be very good at that either, though.
You got to use, outdoor.
Yeah.
out in the garage with the door open and a ventilator or a fan or whatever, because you don't want to be melting that kind of stuff and getting those fumes in your house. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. My game room is actually on it's not attached to the house, it's attached to our attached garage. So if I'm doing anything that gives off like fumes or whatever, just step out into the garage. So I spray paint, or I used to spray paint my cardboard stuff first, black, and then I would hit it with paint, just like a gray with some white and black to set it off. But yeah, luckily I have the garage right next to me for that. So
cool.
So, what does your release schedule look like this year of things you can talk about? Obviously, you have a Kickstarter going right now. When's that end? And then, do you have other new products coming out over the course of this year?
Good question. So, my Kickstarter with the magnetic blocks still has 22 more days to go. So you can still get on that. Just go to Kickstarter and search for Drakenstone. You'll find me, or search for magnet maps. So this magnet map thing is something I'm adding to the product line. So it's available now, and will be for as long as Drakenstone's going. As far as other new things that are coming out, I mean, I'm always making more different shapes of rooms in different kind of fantasy hallways, rooms, chambers, as well as the medieval inns and taverns. So I keep making more and more rooms. And so if you have a set, you can always get new rooms
to add.
I release new rooms every couple months, So what's coming up this year, besides just more 3D printing, is SciFi. And then there's also going to be a board game that I'm going to release on Kickstarter. And again, I don't want to release any details about what that game is going to be, but I've played it. It's pretty cool. And then I'll have to send you a copy to review on your Master the Game so everyone can see it.
I'd love that. I'd definitely play with my wife on stream too. That'd be cool.
And so, but I don't want to say any details right now about what that game is. But when it launches on Kickstarter, then we can get together again, and then you'll get the first copy and you can check it out.
I love it. What do you have an idea, time frame when that might be?
This summer.
Oh, nice. That's soon then.
So, when it comes to board games, there's a lot of artwork you got to do, and a lot of visual, a lot of Photoshop. And so I'd like to give a shout out to my wife, Angela, who's a talented artist, who's also has a degree from Siena Heights University in Fine Arts. She not only has designed my logo, but has also designed and drawn by hand, not computer, not with a mouse or, not with a machine and a screen, but with a pen and a piece of paper, has drawn all the drawings for this board game.
Oh, wow. That's quite a bit too, I bet. So we've done some like interviews with people who've done Kickstarters and stuff, and like the amount of effort that goes into things like that is amazing. The time, like even just trying to line up artists, because usually it's multiple artists that do all the different things. And I can't imagine trying to do all the art by hand for one board game. Like I just couldn't do that. There's no way. My wife, actually, she was an art major in college. She went to Eastern, and she ended up switching majors at some point to do like psychology and other stuff. But originally she was going to be an art, I think it was an art major for like child, adolescent, something or other art. I don't know. But she's the person that I talk to about color stuff. She's the one that paints all my minis. Like if there's a artistic thing, I always run it by her. I run all my thumbnails for videos by her. Like, I'm just like, what do you think? Does this look okay? The color's good, all that stuff. And she's, because that's not my forte at all. So.
Yeah, color theory. I mean, if you study it, you'd be better at painting things with schemes where the colors go well. And it's all like this to me. And so I understand, the talent there is, you can't, you feel like you want to hire people to get the very best work, but when you know someone that really does high quality art, you got to give them a shout out.
Yep. Does your wife game as well?
She does.
My wife actually is the one who got me into D&D specifically, because
Okay.
I was into Palladium books before that. She ran second edition D&D for me, AD&D, and I have not looked back. Like before that, I was just Palladium books only. I had no interest in trying a bunch of other stuff because I was like, why? I could do it all in this system. It's got fantasy, it's got superheroes, it's got it's got everything. And then I played that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a lot of fun. And that was her favorite, and I'm all about trying new things and looking for the holy grail of gaming, like most gamers out there. But yeah, no, it's my wife is a big reason for my channel. If it wasn't for my wife, I probably would never have started an RPG channel or any of that. So
Right.
yeah. That's good though to have your wife's support on that.
So she's also painting the picture for the box cover,
okay.
and and like I said, illustrating all the drawings inside. And so can't wait to launch that.
So when's their sci-fi stuff coming out?
So right now, I just
Warhammer
have this signal tower that you see here is the first sci-fi bit that I'm doing, and this is also Ill-Gotten Games, which I mentioned before.
Yep.
So as far as other sci-fi stuff for the game that I mentioned earlier, that I'm going to hand sculpt. So wish me luck. It's going to be something that I design and make the masters for, and then try to mold in the traditional way, maybe with a 2-part mold. So it's not going to be licensed. It's not going to be a 3D print. It's not going to be a cookie cutter thing where every piece is the same. It's going to be, every room is absolutely unique.
100% Drakenstone.
You got it.
No,
that's
cool.
Then people can't steal the files or whatever. And it's going to say Drakenstone microscopically on the side. And so, if you want to try to mold one of my pieces, it's going to say Drakenstone on it.
Well, don't tell them that, because now they're going to try to find a way to get rid of it.
We'll see.
That's strange. There's a scuff mark here. No, I'm just kidding.
It says Draken. But anyways, so the sci-fi stuff's coming down the road. Probably summer or fall, we'll be launching that sci-fi game.
Nice.
And so in the meantime, I'm just doing 3D prints of famous sci-fi stuff, that I'm sure you could find in other places, but I'm printing it too.
Yeah.
But, I really wanted to have something unique that you can't find from other makers. And so that's why I really wanted to create those pieces myself.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of time, or let me phrase my question properly. Before the pandemic, did you get a lot of time to actually play games? Because I know you go to conventions. I know you're always working on products and things like that. Did you get a lot of chances to play?
So I had a weekly group. I'd say I probably met with a weekly group. Wow. I was going to say on and off, but mostly on for the past, 10 years or so.
Oh, that's good.
I had a weekly group that met when I lived out in Boulder, Colorado. And then
Nice.
I had a weekly group that met at that game store on State Street in Ann Arbor that's now closed.
They closed?
Not Vault at Midnight, the other one.
Game On.
Get Your Game On.
Yeah.
So Get Your Game On was like my go-to store, and they were the first people that were like, let us carry your terrain in our store. They approached me, and I was like, great, I'm going to be there tomorrow with my terrain to play a game anyways. I'll just leave the terrain there set up at your D&D table. And I was really sad to see that they closed, but we had the best room. Did they close recently
then? Because last time I went there was like 2 or 3 years ago.
They closed probably 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
But they had this nice upstairs and a nice downstairs room that was private, had restrooms, and no one would bother you, and you could just game away into the night and didn't have to have people walking by or anything. So
that's a bummer. That was a nice place. They sold video games, they had all sorts of stuff, video games, board games, every miniature you could think of. They had loose, so you could actually specifically buy the ones you wanted.
One at a time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Because I went there because I was down at Emden, And we used to live on that side of the state. Now we live in Grand Rapids area. And I remember going down there to the M Den, and then I saw that store and had never heard of it. And I was like, oh, that looks like a RPG store. Let's go in there. And then I saw the miniatures. Like, oh, I went back like a couple weeks later, bought some miniatures. And again, this was 2 or 3 years ago. And then obviously we moved. So dang, that's a bummer. That was a cool store.
So the answer is yes. I totally have a weekly group where sometimes I was the DM or most of the time, and then sometimes I was a player, and it was great. We had some pretty epic adventures, and I'll have to admit some of that has inspired what I'm doing now. But while I'm on the mic, I might as well give a shout out to the other game stores around that are carrying Drakenstone.
Yeah.
In Lake Orion, there's Games for Life. And then in Westland, you got Destiny Games. And then up in Howell, you have the Upkeep Games. And then down in Adrian, what is that one in Adrian called?
I don't know.
Castle. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now. But there's one more down in Adrian. Is it called Victory Games? I think that's it. But
I'm not sure.
So there's 4 stores that are locally carrying the games. So it's harder though with, if they want to take 50%, then that, cuts 50% off of what I'm making. So makes it harder to discount it or to give people deals or anything. So, basically, if you go to my website, I'd be happy to give you a coupon to buy any Drakenstone stuff you want. Just type in Draken15. Get yourself 15% off on Drakenstone.com. So you can do that right now, and I can afford to do that.
I still have this from Grand Con a couple years ago.
There you go. That's it. Draken15. Pass it around. But anyway, I can't do that with the retail stores because I'm only getting 50% of what they sell. So Unfortunately, the retail thing is more just, hey, people see it. You can pick some up if you want. It's full price. It's not necessarily a big money maker for me,
right?
But I just want the local stores to have some, and I thank them for carrying it and making space for it. But it's definitely far from my number one thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. Is this your full-time job, doing terrain and stuff like that?
It pretty much is at this point. Mm-hmm. Although I do some other things, like you saw me play some guitar there at the beginning. I teach guitar lessons to kids of all ages. I know a lot of classical guitar and Renaissance lute music. And I performed in Carnegie Hall when I was 19 and was a professor at 2 universities in music when I was 22.
Wow.
But now that I'm turned 46 yesterday, I'd rather play with toys all day.
I'm only 36, and I like playing with toys all day too. So, I have 3 kids. It's a great excuse, like holidays come up. It's like, oh, we need to buy them a couple more things, and then I can go play with them.
Yeah, my 8-year-old daughter loves playing with all this stuff, and I get to play music with kids and teach them lessons all day, and it's fun. So
keeps you young.
I'm not out there on the concert circuit or playing with any orchestras right now, and that's just fine. And I've got other things I want to do.
That's cool. So what are your favorite games to play? Like what RPGs, board games, things like that?
Of course, D&D is my favorite game, but I also like your classics like Axis and Allies. My nephews and I have been known to set up Axis and Allies at one table, Axis and Allies Pacific at another table, and Axis and Allies 1942 at another table, and then you just go from table to table and take your turn.
That game takes up a huge amount of space usually, though, doesn't it? My nephews play that game. They're really into it, and we almost bought it. But yeah, they have a table in their house that's 24/7 set up. They're like a year or 2 apart, and it's always, you walk into their bedroom and that's right there on the table. And it's like, oh my gosh, they have a huge room above the garage, or they used to. They don't have that anymore. But yeah, they had a table that was always set up for it. That's crazy.
But I like Catan a lot. Settlers of Catan is a favorite.
Yeah,
I
classic.
like Puerto Rico.
I've
That's
never played
great.
that.
It's a 5-player game. And, a fun one that I can play even with my 8-year-old daughter or anybody that comes over is called Carcassonne.
Hmm.
It's like a tile building game where you build roads in cities and you just flip over a tile and it's like a puzzle. You see where you can put it on the board.
Nice.
That's it. So you don't have to learn the game. It's just, you can just start playing right away.
That's awesome.
So I recommend that. Recommend Carcassonne to anyone. You can even play it 2-player, and that's what's great about it.
Yeah, I think my wife wants me to play more board games. I think she realizes I'm sinking a lot of money into this hobby. And she's like, no, let's go sink money over here into this that we can just quickly pick up and play within like 20 minutes. Like my wife loves games like Flux, like quick, simple games. And then what'd she get me? So my birthday was this weekend. I know yours was today or yesterday, right?
Yesterday.
So happy birthday to you. We both have birthdays a day apart. April 3rd, April 4th. But yeah, she got me an escape room game. It's almost shaped like a coffin. I can't remember the name of it. It's inside.
Okay.
Look it up. But it's this escape room game she wants to play with me. And then she also got me a game. It's like a choose your own adventure kind of game.
Oh, cool.
But it's from the 80s. It's just been reprinted so many times. I think the company that owns it is the same one that makes Pandemic, because there was an advertisement for Pandemic in it.
Okay.
What was it called? I can't remember that name either. Anyway, so she just got me those, and I'm really looking forward to trying those out in the next couple weeks. I think I got time next week. This week we have like 6 streams, so it's like crazy.
Have you tried 3 Dragon Ante, the card game?
No, but I saw that. Was it WizKids put that out?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Hasbro.
Probably, yeah. So I've seen that. I have not actually tried that. Obviously, I know that goes perfectly with D&D.
It is. I've used it, in an adventure where all the players were they were basically indentured servants sold to the circus, and they had to perform, and then they had to raise money and get tips, and then we did this whole adventure, and then at the end they had to try to buy themselves out of their contract, and the only way they could do it was by defeating their nemesis in a game of poker. And so we played 3 Dragon Ante, and whoever made 100 gold bought out their contract and moved on. Whoever couldn't afford it stayed for the rest of their lives. And so half the party got to retire and go into, what is that? What is it when you go 20th level and your character becomes an NPC?
So
retirement?
Basically, in old editions, it was like ascending to godhood or something, I think. Immortal, right? Immortal box was the whole thing.
Something like that. I forget what it was called.
Yeah. But... Yeah, I've never played that. So my thing is I've never played a game that long. Ever. We've never... Okay. I've had so many gaming groups, unfortunately, like where we've played for a couple years and either I've moved or somebody else has moved. Like since I've been with my wife, we've moved from Grand Rapids to back to Saline and Ann Arbor area twice. So we lived there twice and we've lived over here twice now. And we've moved on average once a year since we've been together, which is crazy to think about. So it's when we get a gaming group, we start getting into things, we get a campaign going, we hit like 6th, 7th level, and it's like, oh crap, got a job offer on the other side of the state. See ya. So then things fall apart. So we've played with quite a few different groups, unfortunately, which is also a good thing too. I've learned a lot because of it, but yeah. So last question, and then I'll let you, give a kind of a closing, anything you want to promote kind of thing. But the last question I have for you is when you run tabletop RPGs, do you like to run published modules or do you like to run your own homebrew campaigns?
The answer is homebrew campaigns. And here's why. So, some of the best friends in D&D that I've met, we met to play Tyranny of Dragons. And so I got the book and I read it and I showed up to the game. And we were all so into it and we all just wanted to role play and have this epic adventure that the book got left in the backpack, and we just did other stuff. And besides, I couldn't figure out the intricacies of reading through page after page anyways. And so it turned out to be a homebrew adventure, even though it was Adventurers League, it was a Wizards of the Coast game.
Yeah.
And so I just have trouble following those plots exactly, because the players are going to go off and do these other things. And so in my opinion, every game ends up to be a homebrew game in the end anyways.
So it sounds like you and I have similar thoughts on modules. So I'm starting to get better at it. A few years back, I tried running Adventures League. I felt very restricted because I felt like I had to stick to the words in the book, or else I was cheating the players out of the experience of what they signed up for, kind of thing. And so I got away from it, and I've run at Horde of the Dragon Queen, the first part of it, a few times. Lately, the last 2 years, I've tried running more modules, and I used to be really not upset, but I'm very critical of myself. And so if I missed something or I left something out that I was supposed to give, like a certain clue or an item or whatever, it would rattle me, to the point where I'm like, well, how can I work that back into it? And it ruined the fun for it until I finally was like, screw it. I'm just, like you said, we're going to run it however. And if I mess something up, whatever. And it's been way better since doing that. We're running Descent to Avernus, which you know of. And I've messed things up in there based on the module, but it's been way more fun anyway, and everyone's having a good time. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for asking me about that. You must have read my mind, because if you get, say, for example, my dungeon that's Labyrinth of the Lost, it comes with a 7-page adventure that you can play.
Oh, cool.
With the tiles. If you order Dungeon of the Orc Lord, it comes with a 7-page adventure for 5e. And it has all the monster stats and the descriptions of the rooms. And so look for those, on my website, because some of the dungeons that, if you get a whole dungeon, if you get a 27-room dungeon, and it's all magnetic, and you pay $199, it better come with a sweet adventure. What do you build with all these rooms? Where's the map? Where's the room descriptions?
Yeah.
Where's the boss room? And so I give all that stuff to you. It just comes with it.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing to do. I think all companies should do that. So that's awesome. We did get a question from Steve Collects. He said, the Kickstarter looks interesting. I took a quick look at the Kickstarter, was wondering why the high prices for shipping for Canada. Do you guys use a distributor, or what's going on with the high? I don't know how much it costs.
Good question. I didn't set the prices for how much it costs to ship a box to Canada, but I tell you, I'm here in Michigan, and Canada is 40 minutes that way.
We'll drop it off in Windsor for you.
Right. And so I can mail a box to Alaska or Hawaii for $7. But if I want to send it to Windsor, it costs $65.
That's crazy.
And so I put $50, I think, down on my shipping to Canada, because you know what? I'll go ahead and lose money and send you that package and get another customer.
Right.
So I'm losing money at charging someone $50 to send a box to Canada.
I once sold an item on eBay, and I used the eBay shipping calculator crap, and it was wrong. I went to UPS to ship, or not UPS, our actual postal service to ship it. And they were like, yeah, that's going to be blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, that's not right. So basically I went negative $15 shipping something to Canada once. And so when I sell stuff online, I don't sell it out of the States, but I don't have a business either. So I don't know. I've never looked into that stuff. I imagine it's a nightmare. I had a friend once out of the United States who ordered something from Kickstarter, and he even said, he's like, hey, can you do something? Can I use your shipping address and then have you do this? I was like, I don't want to get involved in that, because I've seen like a lot of the crap that can happen, unfortunately, whether like tariffs change and all that. I was like, that's a nightmare. I feel
You know,
bad for people that aren't in America trying to get stuff from America or vice versa. Like I know sometimes getting stuff from England can be tough too. So
yeah, it costs a lot to ship to and from England, but
mhm.
Canada is just, I don't know why it's that expensive. And for a
Yeah.
while, I was ready to just drive 40 minutes that way, go into Windsor, take my boxes to the post office, and just mail them
That's
from
actually a
Canada
really
to
good idea.
Canada. And then guess what? The pandemic meant I can't cross the borders.
Hmm.
So sorry, everybody in Canada. I apologize.
Yeah.
You guys make great ice hockey players and great beer.
Yeah,
And
keep
thank
sending
you
them
very
to
much.
Detroit to play to be Red Wings, and we're good here. I
There
don't
we
know if
go.
you're a
So,
Detroit fan. Are you a Red
but
Wing fan? Don't
you
say
know,
Avalanche.
Muskegon Lumberjacks actually is the
Oh,
team that.
that's fine. You could be a minor league fan or whatever they are.
Sure, those local guys, they really have to fight harder.
It was funny. I went to a Plymouth Whalers game once. That was a lot of fun. I love hockey. Love hockey. So
Don't they throw little whales on the ice in that game?
so when I went, so we're talking like 14 years ago. Very small venue, like real tiny. But it was cool. There were a lot of people there. I don't think they even scored. I think we were shut out. So there was nothing thrown on the ice when I was there. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun though. Love going to hockey games. I still, even though I live over here in Grand Rapids, I have not been to a Griffins game. That's
Okay.
one thing I need to do in the next couple years. So yeah. So we've been going for a little over an hour. Obviously, I'll let you plug your Kickstarter. I will get the link into the description probably tomorrow during the day
Okay.
to the Kickstarter directly. And then obviously Drakenstone.com. That should be in the description right now. I will get that into the pinned comment after we go off stream. But is there anything else you'd like to say or promote before we go? Any social media
So,
links?
well, I'd just like to thank you, Juice, for having me on your channel. I think we
Hey, no
should do
problem.
it regularly. And this dungeon layout here is something that I'm going to go ahead and box up and send to you
Awesome.
just to say thanks for having me on. And you can use it for a game. You can make a video with it. You can do a giveaway. You can just keep it. It's just my way of connecting with you, and hopefully this relationship that Master the Game and Drakenstone has will just keep on going.
I appreciate that, Andy. I will definitely do a video, show up close video and pictures of it. Obviously give my honest opinion, and I know I love it. I've seen your stuff in person before, and it's awesome. Really good quality. So I'm looking forward to that. That's really cool. Thanks again for coming on, Andy. Anyone who's watching, if this is your first time, be sure to smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. This was Juice with Andy from Drakenstone. And we're going to let Andy play a little song as we go out. Game on, guys.